Meepo is one of the biggest winners of patch 729. So today we're going to take a look at how to play him, and in particular we're going to take a look at some of the new item builds that have emerged on Meepo in recent times. So this Meepo player here is JT from Chinese team IG. You can of course play Meepo in the side lanes as well, but usually Meepo is played in the mid lane just because you need a lot of experience. You want to get that level 4 ASAP, because before level 4 Meepo is absolutely awful. So before then, you just do your best to get as many last hits as possible, try to not get denied, and just survive those first couple of levels. To do so, JT here has opted to just go for a bunch of branches. So in the past, of course, you would want to go for multiple Wraith bands, but that's no longer really a very strong option, because Wraith bands are actually that great on Meepo. You only get 5 agility and 2 to the other attributes, and the attack speed and armor is nice for the main Meepo, but it doesn't actually help your other Meepos at all. So getting 1 Wraith band for the start is perfectly fine. JT in this game is going to skip Wraith band entirely, but you probably don't want to go for more than 1, because Wraith band is no longer as good, and also they just delay your power treads. And power treads really is the most efficient item on Meepo, because Meepo gets the boots from his main Meepo copied to all the clones, and the clones also copy the attributes. So basically the attribute bonus works twice on the clones, so it's super efficient on Meepo. So against Lina, of course, not an easy lane to start, but he's just going to try his best, pulling aggro and trying to use this poof to get last hits. Meepo is pretty much the one hero we absolutely have to have quick cast, because without quick cast it's really hard to get all these spells off. We're just losing too much time. So I actually never use quick cast, but the one hero where I do use it is if I play Meepo, because it's just so essential. So you can see him working here on those treads, and once you have a clone here, you can try to push out those waves, but as up against this Lina, he actually has to be very careful. Almost loses the 1 clone here. In terms of skill build, this is probably always going to go for. In certain matchups, you might want to go for early level in Earthbind. So we have then 1-1-1-1 at level 4. But here against a hero like Lina, where you can't really be aggressive, this is what you want to go for. This gives you the most farm. Then at 4 minutes, you want to try to secure those runes. He actually got a kill here because Snapfire already reduced the Skyrath to very low HP. So always be mindful when there's an easy kill nearby. But of course, usually you're not going to get these kinds of kills. And then after you have our treads, which is just flying out on the courier, we're actually going to go for 2 Dragon Lances. Dragon Lance basically is just a very strong item right now. It's been buffed multiple times. It used to be very strong when it came out, and Meepos used to go for Dragon Lances back then, but in the meantime the item has gotten a lot worse, but now it's been buffed back up, and it's once again actually worth just going for Dragon Lances. Now cost for cost, Dragon Lance is still less efficient than a Wraith Band, but of course they're much more slot efficient. So by not going for these Wraith Bands, we can then afford to get 2 Dragon Lances before we go into other items. And this just gives us a lot of stats, and it's just the stats we need: strength and agility. Of course the attack range doesn't work for us, and we're not really going to upgrade this pretty much ever to Hurricane Pike, but it's just still a very, very efficient item. And here we can see Lina's not to be underestimated. He just died here, being a bit too overconfident, and that's a pity, but you know, it happens. Despite getting this kill just now, Lina's not very far ahead, and as the game goes on, of course, Meepo will significantly outfarm this Lina. As he's respawning, he's actually just TPing to the tier 2 tower. That's because it allows him actually to stack this camp. Stacking camp is very important as Meepo, of course. Ideally you have Ella stacking for you, which is also happening in this game here, and if you're playing at low levels, it's probably not going to happen as much. but also stacking yourself is very important. So once you see that you can't really do very much in lane, you just go jungle. In a case like that, here Lina is not that active in this lane, but as soon as this Laguna Blade comes back up, you have to be very, very careful as Meepo here. Just gonna wait until for the creeps to go into the tower, push out this wave then. We're actually just gonna drag it here into this creep camp, and there's also an important technique you can do, because you have the AoE damage with the poof, this all these little tricks to maximize your farming efficiency. And so that's what JT is gonna go for. And now it's also very important to constantly look at the clock here. It's shortly before stack, so he's gonna take a clone here to stack this camp, and meanwhile the main Meepo, actually the clone is going to be in the lane. Actually this is the wrong way around. Ideally you would want your main hero to be in lane and your clone to be stacking, because your main hero gets full experience, whereas your clone only gets 30%. And after all these stacks you can clear this super fast, of course, with poof. It's very important to use int treads when you do that, because Meepo at the start does run out of mana, but using thread switching is super efficient on Meepo, especially on the clones, who get double the int. One misconception that some people have is that you should always split up your main Meepo and the clones. This is true later on for farming, but in the beginning your clones and your Meepo are not that strong yet, so you want to have them both together, and the only exception is basically when you're stacking. Other than that, you always want to have both these guys together to farm a camp together and do it quickly without losing much HP. And yeah, that's what he's doing, just hitting lots of jungle camps. And in the meantime, the Snapfire here is in the mid lane, absorbing this experience. Snapfire is only level 4, so you're going to benefit a lot from this. And in your pubs you have 3 Meepos. You should start splitting up a bit more. Often that's what you're going to do is you want to move around with one group of 2 and one separately. So that's what he's doing here. Because 2 Meepos are enough to clear these creep camps now very quickly. And if you have all of them together, you're not going to be farming as efficiently. The only time you want to have all of them together is if you're fighting, or if you're doing like a big stack. So here, this ancient camp. At this stage, you're probably strongest hero on the map, so you can also start looking for fights. So if you're looking for fights, what you want to do is you want to have 2 Meepos farming somewhere, and then a third going with your team or going for a gank or whatever, so they can be farming even while looking for kills. And next item after these double dragon lances, there's basically 3 main options that we can go for. First is what's shown here, the blink dagger. Second is what's also shown here, the Skadi. And then the fourth is the E-blade. So E-blade and blink dagger, of course, very classic Meepo items. Don't think I need to explain why they're good on him. And Skadi also just really good, lots of stats. It's of course the more defensive option compared to E-blade, but it's, especially if you're sort of newer to Meepo, it's perhaps the nicer option because it allows you greater ease of execution in fights because you have that slow. It's also worth pointing out that this build that he's doing right here has practically no int, so the fact that you get this extra int from iG.JT is actually really nice. It's primarily, of course, about strength and agility, but int can also be a factor. You know, at this stage in the game, you might still at some points run out of mana. So, and of course, you have to consider that Meepo has a very poor stat gain, one of the lowest stat gains in the entire game. Another fight going on here, and you can see my recommendation would be to go for that blink dagger after the double dragon lance. If you're doing well and the team is doing well, so you want to play aggressive, then a blink dagger is an excellent tool. But if you're not doing that well, I would recommend going for one of these stat items, and especially if you're not yet convinced by the strength of this double dragon lance build. Look at this. Meepo is being gone on, Lina's firing everything on her, we have Skylarth ultimate, and still this clone survives, no problem. Still 700 HP left. It's because it's 50 minutes into the game and this guy has 2.5k HP with strength threats. And they got the 1 Meepo out, and The rest of the Meepos still in the fight, juggling Meepos back and forth here, and we're fighting with 2 Meepos, whereas the third one still in the fountain vacation. And of course, after you win a fight like that, Roshan is always a strong option. Meepo can do Roshan by himself, but of course having his team nearby is recommended so they can help out and do this even faster. Let's talk a bit about skill build and talents. So if you take a look at this here, that he only has 1 level in Earthbind, 1 level in Ransack. So he's only actually spent 8 points here and then 2 in talents. This means that he has 5 levels in attributes. Attributes are actually a very strong option on Meepo. Because just like talents, the attributes apply to the main Meepo and the clones, and because the clones also get the attributes from the main Meepo, the clones get twice the bonus. So the clones actually get +4 to all attributes for each point in here. This is actually a very attractive option. I'm not sure it's actually better than just the regular skills, because those also scale really well. So I'm not entirely sure whether you really want to go all out in attributes. I think he's going maybe a little bit too heavily on the attributes here. And I've looked at different pro players playing Meepo recently, and they're sort of all over the place in the skill builds. Some of them are going for this. I've even seen one game where someone just had proof at level 1 and then maxed out Ransack plus stats. But I think it's a bit too crazy maybe. As far as talent tree goes, level 10 it's a bit wide open. You can either go for the damage or the strength. Both are perfectly viable. I believe in general the strength one is a bit stronger most of the time, no pun intended. But really either of those are fine. And then level 15 you want to go for the evasion. Poof damage really is not that important. Poof is not really that much of the damage. The damage is nice for farming in the early game and so on, but once you're level 15 you don't care about poof damage very much. It's all about the strength of your Meepo, so you want evasion. And then level 20 you want the Ransack talent, and then level 25 it's probably going to be the +1 clone, because it actually adds a lot of DPS to you, especially now. And once you have a nice lead and you have an Aegis, you want to play very aggressively together with your team, because Meepo with Aegis is incredibly powerful at the stage of the game, especially if you farm like this. Or at least that's the plan, but here in this case, they actually got lots of kills, so they're just going to go for the high ground. Normally would not go high ground this early, but if there's lots of people dead, Meepo of course takes structures incredibly fast. It's going to try to go for that kill, but it's actually not a good play here. You should just be hitting the buildings. But honestly, at this stage the game is pretty much over, so I'm not going to cover everything here. But take a look here. He's actually leaving behind the clones and just running away with Meepo, because he just was about to run out fairly soon anyway. So and you're always going to respawn at your main Meepo. This has been my first Meepo video. If you want to see more Meepo, tell me in the comment section, or also tell me if you want to see any other particular heroes or types of content. Upcoming on this channel is going to be a video on the new Lycan, as well as a carry tier list. So if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe and hit the bell. And if you want to see even more of me, come check out my stream at twitch.tv/Gunnarsson, where I stream every Wednesday and Sunday. And always willing, I'll see you there.